Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into with our guests, first of all, you should recognize her. We have Kelli back on the show. She was last on 2 years ago, and since then, she's been through quite a lot. I'm not going to spoil it here. I'll let her tell it herself. But yeah, I've said this a million times. I love to share people's journeys, and this is quite a journey in and of itself. And she's in Florida. We're talking to her right post-Hurricane Milton as well. So she's been very busy, and she just got done competing at a show that she won overall at the NPC first callouts, and yeah, again, quite a bit. I mean, honestly, I thought about what I've been doing these last few months, and then I think about what she's been up to, and I'm just like, Jesus, this is just ridiculous. But again, Kelli, thank you so much for coming back on.
Hey Ryan, thank you for having me. I appreciate you asking me to, come back on the show. I enjoyed our last chat. It was a great experience, and I'm glad to be back on again and, sharing with everyone because I seldomly do this.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This is, like I said, that's the ultimate goal. This is just to share people's journeys, and to also, for everyone out there's asking, like, why do these people do this to themselves? It's like, if I can provide a little bit of clarity for that, because otherwise people are like, God, these people are just insane. I was like, well, they're insane in a good way. But before we delve into the psyche of a bodybuilder, because that's a 50-hour podcast that we could do in and of itself. I mean, you've had quite the journey. What has it been like for you these last 2 years?
All right, so since we last spoke, I can't remember if it was like a pre-show or post-show. I just knew like I was around prep time, and I was actually at that time, I believe, doing Tampa Pro as an NPC athlete, not the pro, and I was competing as a physique competitor. And since then, I've grown into women's bodybuilding, and that last show that I did on the 5th of this month, the first call out was in women's bodybuilding. It was a great experience, greatly ran show. The promoter is awesome, and it was a good experience. Other than, you know, not feeling, that's like the weakest we are show day. We're just like trying to survive that day. But yeah. So since then, I had a few ups and downs. Where after our first interview together, I had a health scare where I ended up in the hospital. I had a UTI infection that I didn't even know I had. No symptoms whatsoever, that morphed into a kidney infection, and then I was recovering from that. Then suffered a GI issue where I couldn't eat or drink or do anything without any pain. So I had to slowly work my way back into eating something and drinking, and I lost a lot of size, a lot of weight, and I wasn't really training at that time, because I need to let my body recover, and you can't be doing the gym thing at the same time. And so that I went through that, and then I'm working with Sean Smith now. We've been working together for about a year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half, and he's been working with me because like my fear with that, the digestion issue, which I've always had issues with because I've had multiple surgeries, like no gallbladder, and then had portions of my intestines removed. So digesting protein and fat has always been an issue. It just caught up with me. And so he's been great with that. Like my fear was that I wasn't going to be able to bodybuild because I wasn't going to be able to eat like, red meats and everything that I need to do to be like big and, be competitive in bodybuilding. But, we've been doing Greek yogurts, egg whites, protein powders, just enough for me to get into women's bodybuilding and, not doing the red meat. Like I don't have any red meat diets or anything. And it's, I felt good. I mean, other than, how prep feels where you're like wondering, how am I surviving on this? Like, and I believe we had a little chat before this where, during training, but during the last several weeks, it's like, cause you're trying to get as lean as possible. You're fighting against your body to continuously perform while you're on a deficit, a caloric deficit. And, you're doing the weights and you're doing your sets, but when you're trying to walk or anything, it feels like a mission, and you're just dizzy and just like, oh my God, like how am I even here? How am I functioning? But I believe as we spoke before, like the human body is amazing. What we can get ourselves to do, when we're devoted or dedicated to something. And in that time, the last time we spoke, that's all I've been doing. I've kept my head down. I think a lot of people have noticed that on my social media. I'll post my training videos, but I haven't really been like outspoken or, nothing flashy, no photo shoots or anything, because I was focused on getting through that, coming back and being better than I was. When I say better than I was, feeling better and, looking at myself and like, okay, I know like every time I'm going to compete, I want to somehow improve, whether that's my presentation, my look or something. And I feel that, doing keeping my head down and just like focusing on my things every day and doing what I can control. Like I felt that this show, the package, is just like a preview of things to come. Because that was our first show with myself and Sean working together. So it was a practice show where we wanted to nail the peak, see what worked, didn't work, and now we're preparing for December where I'm going to be competing at NPC Nationals to get my pro card. And although I've been, training for a long time, people have been following me for like a decade. I haven't gotten my pro card yet. Every time I was in prep to get something to go compete, something happened. The first time was the arm. I was like around week 4 out, and that's when I had the accident. My whole humerus shattered, so obviously didn't compete. And then that was actually before women's physique ever existed. So it was just women's bodybuilding at that time. And then I don't know if you remember, they actually took out women's bodybuilding out of the Olympia. So, that was kind of like, what are we going to do? You know? And then COVID happened, things like that. And that I think a lot of people were, I don't think everyone was affected by it, And then we had that weird, I think Olympia that one time. That was, we still had it, which was awesome. But then women's bodybuilding came back, Rising Phoenix, which I would love to do that show. That's a goal of mine. You know, aside from the Olympia, I think that's every female bodybuilder's goal to step on stage. I don't have low expectations for myself, but like my thing is like I just want to get their experience, standing by everybody else, like with everybody else on the stage. That's like what I would, what my goal is. And you mentioned um, talking about the psyche of a bodybuilder, um, why we do this. Honestly, for the last 6 months, I've been asking myself why, and I've been trying to, break down why am I doing this? Why am I devoting myself so much to this? Because I don't really care about the social media aspect of it or being popular or anything, and I'm still trying to answer that why, but I know it has something to do with strength. Because for me, like I grew up with my grandmother and the women and my family are all like strong and everything, and I think this is my way of trying to like pay them some respect. Like
I think you went above and beyond in that respect, if we're being honest.
yeah, but I have this thing where like let's say I'm in a gym and like I'm about to fail a rep. I honestly, if I fell, I just laugh because I know like there's another goal. I need to get that. That's how I am with bodybuilding. I always raise the bar. I'm like, okay, all right, I made it back from the arm break. I made it back from the hospital issue and losing all this weight. What else can I do?
What was that like for you to look in the mirror when you'd lost all that size after your illness? Because being so used to seeing that physique look that you had and just realizing that like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. I like that would crush so many people.
It did. I actually cried that day. Like I sat on the front of my house, like at the steps, and I cried and I cried. Because like a lot of times on social media, like people, athletes, like feel that we have to like portray ourselves as strong and we're like machines and we just go despite what. And if you don't, you're not made for this. No, I cried and I sat there and I let myself feel everything, experience everything. And then I decided, like, you know what? All right. I gave myself time to think about it, cry. And what am I going to do next? What is the plan after this? How am I going to get myself back to where I was and get better and go beyond? And, that day I reached out to people, tried to get help, and, I ended up with Sean, who has been amazing.
Well, the positive thing about that, at least, is that you have the muscle memory, which helps. But how long did it take before you really started to feel like your old self again?
Oh my gosh. It was about it. I think, all right, from that day, I'm trying to go roughly off of my check ins. It was about almost a whole year. Almost a whole year. It was very uncomfortable, because one, and you don't want to look at yourself. You knew what you were at, and you're at that stage, and you know that you have a long way to go in the process, and you're going to have to stick with it. That you don't want to even look at yourself. Like, I would get negative thoughts, and negative thoughts like wow, like what the heck? But you still have to do it. You still have to check in with your coach. They still need to see stuff, and my coach has been great with it. It's like, like you're doing good. And although he doesn't coddle you or anything, like he was great with like, hey, you improved. That's what we need to focus on. And that's what, every check-in has been, there has been some minor improvement. And since like I look at my photos, my first check-in, like I would weigh myself every day, all my photos, and I can't believe, I'll send them to you after this interview, where we started and where we are now. It was it was um it was looking back at it, like I get a little emotional, like with this win this past weekend, although it's an NPC show, and some people were like, "Oh, it's just an NPC. It's not your pro card or anything." That win meant a lot because it took me from coming back from losing all that weight and rebuilding myself and dealing with my digestive issues, and I'm just like, wow, like did it. That was a very emotional win, and with the pro card, target in December, like that would mean everything to win that pro card, because then it was like all these years, all these times where broke my arm, all that, like this, it's going to be sweet, like finally achieving that.
What body part came back the quickest for you, and what body part took the longest for you to get back to where it was at?
Okay, the quickest for me has been, I would say, my shoulders and my back. Yeah, my legs have been my strong point a long time, but after I got sick, it's been harder to get them back. Like my hamstrings, my glutes, and my legs. Yeah, that has been the hardest part. But they're coming back. But it has been my shoulders, my back, and my arms.
How confusing is it for people? Because I just assumed that you were a pro. Like before, when I asked you to come back on, like I just assumed that, and then I rewatched our old interview, and then I followed the thing. I was like, oh wait, she doesn't even have a pro card. Because like I was shocked by that. So how confused are people who have maybe followed you for so long when you tell them like, oh, I actually don't have my pro card? Because like you just have the aura of a pro bodybuilder.
Oh, no, I get it all the time. Like everyone's like, are you, like, not, I want to say everyone, but people who approach me about it, they're like, so you must be pro, right? You're pro, and I'm like, no. They're like, what? You look like a pro. Like you, like, I'm flattered, but it's like, and then they find out I'm not a pro, and they're like, why not? And I'm like, that's a long story. Like, but it's like I feel that things happen, in time. And honestly, like if before I broke my arm, if I got my pro card then, I don't know what kind of professional I would have been at the time. I was still immature. I was still like very uh kind of like wanting to, I enjoyed the the highlight or like attention, where now it's, I feel a little bit more mature, where I'm more focused on empowerment, like women empowerment, strength, like not just from the like like bodybuilding, lifting, but portraying women as strong individuals. That's like me right now, what I focus on, and why I have kind of been just like keeping my head down, focusing, and then waiting for the right opportunities to come along, to showcase that.
Do you struggle at all sometimes knowing that like you bodybuilders sort of put off this image of like you're talking about, that like they're invincible, that they're just these big huge people, but like you have feelings too, you have emotions, like you said when you were getting emotional. Do you ever have a hard time thinking that maybe you might have to mask those things because you might have to like come off as this certain type because you are a bodybuilder?
Um, I don't think so. I don't think I have a hard time, on social media. I don't. You can go. I don't really. A lot of people have a hard time figuring me out because I don't share a lot of personal stuff on social media, and that's not so much to hide things, but like
That's the smartest thing you can do if we're being completely honest. Like good for you for
yeah,
that.
yeah. I have like like my life is like, other than bodybuilding, like I have my kids, and, my family, and I don't put them on my bodybuilding. Like I keep that separate. Like I don't, because like it's like unsafe. Like everyone sees my profile. It's public. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's like, but I don't feel like, I have my stories, the story sections where I share with my subscribers, where they see my everyday stuff, and I'll talk about things, my post training thoughts, and how hard things were. So I'm very open to, expressing how hard things are. Cause like I see online that people, I don't know if it's a front, or maybe they are just like that, where they're just really hardcore about it, where they have like, you just got to suck it up. You got to do this everything perfectly. Like I don't, like I'm first. I tell people like bodybuilding is my hobby. It's what I like to do for, that's my me time, everything. But it's not my whole life. I have my kids, all that, and I really, I talk to them about feeling their feelings and not being ashamed of things. And, just because things are hard or things hurt or like you're, struggling with things doesn't mean you need to hide it. It doesn't, it's not weakness. So I don't think I have a hard time with that.
I will say 95% of those people, it is a front. Absolutely. The ones that say that like that are hardcore about it. That's at least my experience. There is the diamond in the rough where you're just like, okay, this person actually like is just crazy. Like
Yeah.
they're like that, which, more power to them. But you mentioned before being that you had such a problem, digesting protein that you've done a lot more Greek yogurt and eggs. Was that the first option that they gave you, or was that through a lot of trial and error that you found out that that was maybe the better options for you?
No, that was some of the first options because like we were talking because like he's not gonna make me eat something that I don't like, which is another misconception I see other athletes saying like, oh, like stop complaining about what you eat. For me, it's like you're gonna be doing this for years. You gotta enjoy at least some of it, not just hate everything. So like we talked about things and he's like, well, what do you like? And I was like, well, I like Greek yogurt or things like that, and I like tofu. I like hummus. I couldn't get hummus. I didn't have enough protein. And I like eggs. So, and he was like, "Are you okay with protein powder?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do that." And we tried it, and he's like, he would ask, "How am I digesting it?" And it actually improved, obviously, with the Greek yogurt, with the probiotics, and it improved my digestion. And that's what we stuck with.
Hey, you're lucky they got the first try because I've talked to other people with similar issues and they're on like try 11 or 12 right now and they're still trying to find it. But other than the protein side, are there any other types of food that you still struggle with to eat?
I struggle with that hurt,
Yeah.
like hurt or digest. All right, so I don't do well with sugars at all. Yeah, so we saw that with this carb up that I had to do with the show afterwards. You know how people go on a spree and they're like having the time of their life? Nah. I started having a fever. I started just the next day I felt like I was hungover, even though I didn't, drink like that or anything like that. And I felt like crap for like 3 days. And it took 3 days for me to not feel like I had a hangover, not wanting to vomit and feel sick and everything. So yeah, sugar is like something I can't deal with. Because like I was like eating muffins and stuff to carb up and some honey, and that just messed me up because I'm not used to eating like that, all year. Because like although I had off season for about a year and 6 months, I was on a meal plan that whole time. We were eating clean, lots of clean foods, and he would allow me a cheat meal once a week, and that's how I lived for a year and 6 months because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get back. So like doing introducing like the muffins and the honey and stuff kind of like messed my digestion up a bit. But I've always been that way where I really since I was around 8, 9, didn't um have a lot of like sugary stuff or anything. I always gravitated towards like unsweetened things, and I think that's another thing is like I'm not really a big sugar eater, yeah, or drinker. I can't do teas or anything.
You poor thing.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
mean, hey, I'll trade that look for not being able to eat sugar any day of the week. But it's just fascinating how other people's bodies are different when it comes to digestion. Then we always talk about like what muscles really take off, how everyone's body's built different. It's just fascinating, especially as talking to as many people I've talked to, when you just realize how different each and every person is and how we're all unique and special in our own ways. But just doing what dealing with what you've dealt with, and like you told me before, you were on prep since what, February?
yeah. Late February, early March. Like my first check-in was like maybe like the first, second week of March.
How have you kept somewhat of a sane mind?
I,
I say
I,
somewhat because I know that you haven't kept a completely one because you're a bodybuilder. Let's be honest, but
no,
like, how have you kept a somewhat? Like, how are you hanging in there?
okay, so it's funny that you say that because like one of my texts to my coach was about I think I was like 4 weeks out. I was like, I think I'm losing my mind. I got to the point where I was
You wouldn't be
salivating,
on a prep if you weren't, honestly. Like, if you never texted that to your coach, I'd be like, okay, you're not on a real prep. Let's be honest.
right? I would walk through the vegetable section. I know I'm not gonna get anything, but I was like salivating and looking at peppers, and I'm like, And I'm like smelling everything, like that would be so good. Yeah, but that's how bad it got. And then it got to the point where I was like constantly thinking about food. And I'm like about to cry because how hungry I was. And I would train and I'm not crying because of my training. I'm just like, I'm so hungry. Yeah, no, I don't I honestly that's where, I would ask myself, why am I doing this? Not nor more not out of like doubt or anything, but like why am I putting myself through this? What is waking me up every morning and going through like putting me something well, I'm choosing to, but like what in me is like keeping me here and keeping me going through this? And I think that's how I wouldn't say I was sane, but that's how I got through it. Because it was just like something in there is like, I got to do this. I need to do what I say I'm going to do and what I devote myself. And I look back, like I have this little book that I created on my own where it's like a workout journal log thing. And I see where I started, all my check-ins and everything, and all the things I've put into this training. All my training, my diet, my gym memberships, my coaching expenses, everything, all the protein I buy. And I'm like, that's a lot of like, a lot of time spent, a lot of money spent, effort. Like it would make no sense to not get through this at this point. You know?
I honestly think that's part of the thing of bodybuilding is like when you put in that much money, you're like, okay, I'm gonna step on stage. If I'm gonna have to be dead basically if I'm not gonna be stepping on that stage. But yeah, I think that is a little bit of a part of it too. But just dealing with what you're dealing with and just the mental strength again, that's a whole thing that we could get into. But I'll save that for a little bit later. But this show that you competed in, I mean, what was that moment like when you won first overall and was it? I mean, what was going through your mind when they announced your name and you realized, wow, did I really win this?
All right, so my friend was in the crowd and she was like, "You didn't even know you won, right?" I was like, "No," because I stood there after they called my number. I was like, and then they were like, it was like a moment of silence, and the announcer was looking at me, and I was like, "Oh, that's me, okay."
You should have still
But
stayed like standing there and like made them come to you.
yeah, yeah, she like kind of took a step and was like facing at me, like then she had to call my name. Then it all like clicked, and I was like, I couldn't hear it, but she was like, talking to me a bit and like congratulating me because it was away from the speaker, that microphone. And yeah, I was like, I wasn't teary eyed or anything. I was like dehydrated at that point, but like how your mouth starts getting all, you can start making that sad face and stuff, and the ugly crying face. It started, but then I was like, okay, they're gonna take pictures. All right, so like yeah, so yeah, no, it felt uh great. It was more so like a when you survive something, you're like that thankful feeling. Like it's like I got here, like holy crap, like okay. And I was like, I don't know, it was like even though it was a couple of, I felt like it was like forever on stage, but when I looked at back at the video, we were only on there for like what seemed like 30-40 seconds. And in that time I was thinking about my whole prep and the times where my insane mind was telling me to stop, because it's telling you to eat, it's telling you to go do this, go do that, don't train today. And I thought about all those times, like whatever I gave in, I wouldn't be here. And my talks with my coach where I was like, I don't know, like I'm feeling like I'm going crazy. And I was before the show, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do December. I feel like I'm insane right now. Like I don't think I can, after the show, diet again to December. But then it was like a few days before the show, I texted him. I was like, hey, I already booked my hotel for December. And I was like, you know what? I got this far, and I'm gonna go for my pro card this year. Like.
So you win the show, you think you're out of it, you're just like, okay, now I can finally, relax for a little bit. And then you get a warning that there might be a devastating hurricane coming into your area. How do you deal with that? First of all, just knowing that, like, at that point, I'd be questioning whatever higher power you believe in and being like, what do you have against me? What have I done wrong? But how have you been coping?
Okay, so like I didn't think that. My thought was like, what? I wasn't really living in reality. I wasn't watching the news at that time because I was like focusing on bodybuilding. I was like, how did the hurricanes don't just creep up? Like that's been brewing out there for a while. And I'm like, I was kind of like, what? Okay, now I have to focus on all this other stuff. We did celebrate that night. Well, what I could, like, I didn't eat that much. I shared a cheesecake with three other people, so that only gave me like 2 bites. And I ate a little bit at a Cheesecake Factory, and then yeah, so like the next day, that's when we started preparing. Um, I before COVID, okay, guys, I naturally hoard toilet paper and napkins, so I didn't have to buy that. Okay, I don't know why in
Arrest
my
her,
mind
police! Arrest her!
I would have like 46 rolls all the time because I'm like, what if I never don't have it? Like, what happens if I go to get toilet paper and there's no toilet paper? But yeah, I usually have it already. So I didn't have to buy that. We already have water, and but my oldest actually, I know that has been a hot topic. People want to know how old I am. I don't know why. And I'm like, do I look that old? Do I not? They're like, how old are you? But my oldest actually lives north where the hurricane kind of like went through Port St. Lucie. If you see where it went, it was right there. My oldest moved up there, has his own house. So we actually had to go like help with that because my oldest was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not coming. I want to stay at my house and all that. But luckily the house has it's a well built house, has shutters, everything. So we went and did that and prepared him, which they ran out of they lost electricity. So like luckily like I have a generator. Reason being, my business, I airboat business out in the Everglades, there's no power out here. So a lot of times you run off a generator, some of the things like the point of sale system. So we brought the generator up there, so he's all good. I think power actually just turned on today.
I
Yeah,
was just doing the math in my head where I was like, wait, if she has a son that moved out, you don't have to say your age or anything, but I was even thinking that myself because like you're one of those people where it's like you could be 25 or you could be 40 or you could like no one. It's one of those where like I have a distinctive thing where like I just turned 30 and a lot of people can tell, but like there's always that like I bet even those people where they're like you don't know how old they are, but like you would believe whatever they told you. Like
yeah, no, I actually have a lot of my friends are like that. I mean, I don't have a lot of friends, but the ones I have, you wouldn't know if they're 25 or 35. They just, you're like, okay, you look like your skin's good, like so you can be 25, but then it's like, but you act like you're 35 because you have a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and usually they're in their mid 30s. We just like used a lot of sunscreen growing up. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm in my mid 30s.
yeah, look at the sunscreen right there. So yeah, that's just
I'm
pure
in my
That's just
yeah,
pure
I'm
white
in my
skin right there. No sunscreen. I get burnt or I get tan. I barely get tan. I get farmer's tan, where that's not a real tan, but don't even get me started on that. But
yeah.
I did notice on your Instagram you had one thing that went viral, which it should be, where you were basically curling the entire machine when you were doing curls. That one,
That video,
that
I
video.
wonder why that video? Like I'm like I have other good content on
Well,
there.
because you're curling like the entire thing, and that's impressive. People like
Oh,
when did you start doing that for part of your training? Because I normally when people think of bodybuilders, they don't think of people literally curling an entire machine. Have you always done more heavy lifts just for just for you or just as a part of your routine? Because most people like they'd see a bodybuilder maybe doing a fifth of what you're doing, and then just because you're just trying to get the shape of the muscle, that you're not trying to break the entire machine.
oh, so that was like at the peak of my off season, and then shortly after that, we started. I was at 207 at that time. That was the peak of my off season. Yeah, and then shortly
How
after that,
tall are you again?
I'm 5'6.5".
Okay, because I was
Yeah,
gonna say I'm 6'3" and I'm 208, so that's like
yeah,
that's a
I'm
short
like a little,
difference.
I'm like short compared to you. I'm 5'6.5".
Well, you're tall
I
for
would
a
say
bodybuilder.
5'7", but that's my true height, 5'6.5".
You're tall for a bodybuilder. I'll give you that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, I didn't think that. I feel like I'm like short. I'm
If
like,
you're over 5'3", you're tall for a bodybuilder, if we're being completely
okay.
honest.
Yeah, so like so I'm 5'6.5", and no, so that was I was at 207. That was the heaviest I was like consistently. Like there would be a day I'd fluctuate up and down. But other than that, it always, always landed back at 207. And but all right, so in regards to training, I've been training, Sean Smith does my training program and like my diet, all that stuff. And how we approach it is that um, he wants me to get as strong as I can in these lifts. Obviously, like not like like throwing the weight and stuff. But
I don't want to see your veins ever pop or anything like that.
yeah, or like you don't want to see me like arching way back and swinging stuff everywhere. No, like he wants me to, that was our talk. He was like get as strong as you can with these movements, and improve. Like we want to see either your rep range, your if your reps are going high, like with the weight. Like we had a number where there was a time where I was squatting, and was it squats? Yeah, it was squats. I was like, okay. In my mind, I was like, all right. So I was like doing 3 plates and a quarter or something. And I was like, okay, like I'm doing like 20 reps. And he was like, well, slow down the tempo or like go heavier. So we were increase the weight or like let's say, some gyms cap out on dumbbells. I was doing dumbbell rows. I was like, hey, I don't have enough dumbbells. Like it stops at 145. So he was like, okay, we need to just do more reps. Like so, like we were trying to find ways
Kelly, just
to
shut up for a second. Can we just say just hearing you say at 145, I need more weight.
uh,
We're just gonna stop and just let that sink in for a second, everyone, because I just want to. For anyone out there who's just an average gym goer, just imagine having that problem in your life, where you go up to your trainer, you go up to someone and say, "I'm having a problem. 145 for my dumbbell row is too low. I need heavier weights." That's a good problem to have, I'll say.
all right. So I don't. I'm laughing now because you said that, but like at the time, it was a serious matter. You know, like I'm like concerned. I'm like,
Of course it was.
like
I'm not. I'm not trying to make this funny, but like I know I've dealt with bodybuilders. Like I've totally been working out, and I realize how they take things seriously. That like I just try not to laugh at when I'm there with them.
yeah. So our approach was like after he talked to me, he was like, okay, just let's just make them harder. And like I'm like, okay. He was like, slow it down. So I'm like there like 5 second negatives, da, 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 da. And then he was like increase the reps. And I'm like, okay. So that's what we did. And so like that has been our approach, and it has been, I feel that it has been working well because like I feel that from 2 years that we talked to now, and despite what I've went through, I feel like we have a better package now than
Please,
I
please
used
tell
to.
me you have a video of you doing the 145 dumbbell rows, because then I'll just play it while you're talking.
I
Because
actually think I do. I can send it to you.
okay,
If
okay,
not,
good. Well, because yeah, yeah. Let's just make fun of. Let's just embarrass everyone all over again. I mean, we already do that, but no. I mean, yeah. That again, that's a good problem to have, because for me, I mean, I don't even want to say how I do. Now, when I was in my prime, it would be near that, but not close to it. It would be in the
yeah,
ballpark. But again, yeah, it's just bodybuilders humble me more than anyone else, which is why I also enjoy having them on, because if I ever get too hot headed, then I just, look at some of your guys' Instagram pages and I'm just like, okay, it's a really humbling experience. But out of all of the lifts that you've done, what's the lift that you're the most proudest of?
I would have to say I would. I know this is like it's not I shoulder pressing. It's odd because I feel that I've always been upper body weak. Not in regards to pulling, but pressing. Not my bench press, but my overhead pressing because of the arm. So that's why, my overhead presses have increased, and I've gone, to the point where it's like the whole stack for 15 to 20 reps. So that was it. That's what I'm proud of.
I made that face, everyone, because I literally told her that she should go sleeveless during this podcast because I have shoulder day tomorrow and I need to be inspired. So when she said shoulder press is the thing that she's most proud of, I was like, of course it is. I mean, look at them, everyone. This is just absolutely ridiculous. So of course that would be, your answer. But cardio, have you done any of it at all, or like, because just
Okay.
just with how big you are, sometimes I was when before I got started on this podcast, I always had that illusion of like the bigger that you are, the less cardio you have to do, and that is not the case at all. But some people, like I just look at them and I get like a little tingly sense where I was like, do they even do cardio?
Oh, we do. But like, there's a sweet spot. You don't want to do too much because obviously you need to. When you're in a prep and caloric deficit, you don't want to overstress your body, and you need to be able to recover. And so this was a bit different. Like previous experience that I had, like my coaches had me up to 2 hours of cardio, up to 2 hours of cardio. I'm like, okay, I did it, no complaints. But like with him, the highest we went was like um towards the tail end of prep, and it got up to 80 minutes, 2 sessions, and that was only for maybe like a week. And but other than that, I would only do like 20, 30 minutes, and it wasn't intense. He just wanted me to do steady state cardio, and I just be on the on my little bike in my bathroom because it's the warmest room. Everywhere else is cold, and I don't like doing cardio cold. So I was in there and I just be in there strolling casually, nothing intense. I'm not there like fighting for my life. I'm just like casually strolling in the morning and like listening to music and watching YouTube or something. Like that's it's been. I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna get some backlash from other competitors. It was easy. Yeah, it wasn't crazy.
I will say I love doing cardio cold, just because for me it motivates me to move faster, just to try to warm
Really?
myself up. But again, this is I mean, me being in Minnesota, you being in Florida, that's probably what people would expect. Because like if you're in Florida and you're like, I love running in the cold, it's like, well, you picked the hell of a wrong place to live. And if I said I love running in the warm, people are like, well, you got about 2 months for that, so good luck to you. So again, it's just the differences. But with all that you've been through, when you're like you've talked about when you're at those moments where you're just questioning yourself, like, why do I do this? Why do I do this? What is your response that you have to yourself that really gets you going? Like, is there a certain thing that really just revs you back up and gets you going again, or is it just just letting time pass by, or is there like a thought process that you have like stored deep down of like this is what I'm going to use when I'm feeling like death and I don't know if I can keep going?
So when I have those moments, it's usually when the hungriest. That's when they start to arise. Your mind's telling you to just stop everything and go like eat. It wants to survive. Like, it's like I usually. Sometimes it happens in the gym too. When there's times where I don't want to be there. Because like during this prep, as I said, it was hard. Like there was a moment where um I was sort of emotional, mainly because I thought I wasn't going to be able to do the show, because I um, had to get on antibiotics, which caused my weight to spike. And then I was just like, and then I got sick because my daughter goes to school, and then it's like, dude, like every if have kids in school, they're like, it's like every other week there's like somebody's kid's sick, and then your kid's sick, and then you get sick, and I was just like afraid because like my Jesus, I'm not gonna get in shape in time. And uh so like I usually I when I ask myself why am I doing this, as I said, I still don't have a clear answer, but something in me is just like because I told myself I'm gonna do this and I said, I've spent so much time on this and one, I enjoy training. I enjoy bodybuilding. I enjoy, you know, um not the dieting part. I love food. Don't get me wrong. I really love food. It's just the dedication part that's keeping me from loving food and eating it a lot. um, I really enjoy the sport. Like I watch my daughter, my little one gets onto me. She's like, "Why do you always watch bodybuilding?" I wake up, I watch old bodybuilding stuff. Not so much the new content, but I watch old bodybuilding stuff. I'm always reading up on how to improve, whether it's how something, whether it's my training, my nutrition, or anything. Like I really enjoy it, and like I think that's the soul of it. Even though I don't have an answer, I just know I enjoy it because I that's what I like to do in my pastime. Just read up on a body of book. I even have a Dave Draper book here on my desk, like right here in front of me. Um,
What about old bodybuilding do you enjoy the most?
what about it? Okay, so old bodybuilding. I look at their physiques and everything, and they're just so I say raw, and like you can see every striation, fiber, everything, which you don't really see now on
And when
stage.
you're talking about old bodybuilding, what we're talking about, we're talking about like 80s, 90s,
Yeah,
2000s.
golden era. Like as I said, I enjoyed how raw it was, and a lot of the videos weren't overly produced, not hyped up. There are times where there's no music, and it was just, as I said, raw bodybuilding in the moment. You're seeing the process. Where now it seems like there's a lot of finesse, like fancy elevator music and cool, like different clips, and um, I get bored with that. So I really like the old stuff where we're just in there and watching them work and the strength and the dedication.
Yeah, I honestly think that like a lot of sports now, where it seems like it's more about the players now and all about me, how much money can I make? It's sort of like that with bodybuilding, except with bodybuilding, it's more of like it's all about how can I promote myself, and it's not about the sport really. It's not about the passion
Yeah,
of it, which is something that I see far too much, where it's just you can tell that some people like genuinely don't even care about their placings. They just care about like, oh, let's get me subscribers and views and stuff, and then you're just like, well, there's so many easier ways to do that than bodybuilding, people. So if you're going to do it that way,
yeah,
I save yourself some time, please, and just like do something easier. So, but
yeah, definitely. Like I think you can see that with my Instagram, where I'm not. I'm not going to say I'm not thankful for all the followers I have, but it's not my goal when I get on there. I think you can see that with all my training videos. It looks like it was taken from some like 1994 Nokia phone. It's all like grainy, not good angles, anything, and um, you know, I, like I just keep it simple. Maybe I should improve. People have been telling me to get a better camera, things like that. But it's like when I'm in the gym and prep, last thing on my mind is getting good angles or things to please Instagram. It's you know It's just about, okay, I need to do this because, well, I have to do that. I don't know. Cause I usually do it for my subscribers. Cause like when they subscribe, I do actual training and I'll tell them when I'm doing stuff and, they get my full training video. But like I'll put some clips on, Instagram, the shortened versions, but that's why I do it. But other than that, like um, I know that social media has become important in bodybuilding, and that's how I got my sponsor. And so I do have to post here and there for my sponsor. I mainly do it in my stories because I don't like going to bodybuilding profiles and like every post it's just buy this, buy this, buy this. I just want them to enjoy and see what I do. That's mainly what I care about because I know there's somebody else because like who may be going through things or like, okay, like I don't look like the other girls, but I look like her, or she has this going on, she's a mom, she's not kidless and just focusing on bodybuilding, like so I can do it. Like I like this bodybuilding show that I did, there was a moment after I got off stage and I was meeting my friend and my mom and my brother, and I think that was it. I thought there was somebody else, but I think so. I was like kind of
You don't
absent.
have any friends, let's be honest.
Huh?
You don't have any friends, let's be honest.
I do. Okay, they're like, all right, I have friends, but we're all weird. Oh, well, different, not weird, in a sense that even though we live within like a 50-mile radius, it'll be like 6 to 8 months until we actually get together. Cause like we have different lives. So one's like, different
every
schedules.
every guy that has ever lived knows exactly what you're talking about. For women, it's a mystery, but every guy knows exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, and it's like we'll talk and like, hey, you okay? You're alive, blah, blah, blah. And I won't hear from them for like 3 or 4 weeks, and it doesn't mean anything. It's like we're still friends. It's not like we need to keep in constant contact in order to like maintain that relationship, or conversations just continue from where we left off. But yeah, so my friend came and my mom and my brother, and, as I'm talking to them and my friend was like holding my flowers for me and she handed them to me and I had a trophy, this little girl with her mom came up. She didn't even say anything. She was just looking at me and I was like just looking down at her. And then she just came and just like, wrapped her arms around me and was like hugging me and stuff. And then she was afraid to talk to me, but she was just hugging me. And then, I was like talking to her a bit and things like that, because I don't want to say it's not what gets me to do this, but and a part of that why I'm like, okay, there's something that she saw or felt where she's like, I can, whether it's not this but strength, or I can do things that um people find um women shouldn't be doing or can't do. Yeah.
Well, you did miss a golden opportunity to just do like a most muscular on her and just scare her and just be like, just
Oh
like
no.
growl at her or something like that. Just scar the kid for life. No, again, that's
No,
my
she was so
sixth
small.
sense of my humor thinking going on, everyone. But no, that's a great moment because yeah, that's one of the most important things you can do is inspire the next generation and just show them like, hey, there's a healthy way to do this and there's ways that you know you can do this and promote this. But honestly, with your freakish strength that you had, why aren't you a powerlifter, if I'm being completely honest?
I did do powerlifting for a while. I did before I came back to bodybuilding. I think it was a combination of 3 years, I think, 3 or 4. And I did that after the arm break. Because like the doctor that operated on my arm was like, you're not gonna be able to lift like you did anymore, you're not gonna be able to bodybuild. And I you know what? Okay. I was in the gym about 2 weeks later doing cardio with a sling on, and I always started lifting again 6 weeks later. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a powerlifting. I didn't know anything about powerlifting. I'm going to do a powerlifting event, and programmed the strength because I couldn't even move my hand at that time. I was going to physical therapy, which my friend that came to the show would sit during my therapy sessions. So we go through my therapy sessions with me, and another friend would. I couldn't even bathe myself. My other friend was like bathing me and changing my clothes, and I couldn't even like move my fingers. I couldn't move my nothing. So our first like task was trying to hold a pen, and so like from
And at that
there,
point, the thought never crossed your mind that like, hey, maybe this isn't for me anymore.
no, it didn't. I'm like stubborn, you know. I'm like when people tell me I can't do something, I'm like, you know what? Okay, not just to prove them wrong, but you know what? You tell me I can't do it. All right, I'm gonna see if I can do it or not. And yeah, so that was it. It was like I went to physical therapy, And then after that, it was like trying to get the range of motion back in my arm because my arm was like stuck here from being in the the sling and the cast. And yes, we programmed me to do powerlifting to get my strength back. And at that first meet, um, the goal was to like bench 225. I think I benched a little bit before above that, and that's not a high number for powerlifting. But for me, I was like, I couldn't even move my fingers, So for me, that was like an accomplishment. And I actually did for that meet, I had to do a reverse press because at that time my it still hurt to like press normally. So I actually had to reverse grip press the benches for a while. And for within my first year, I got invited to a pro meet, which was pretty dope, because my numbers qualified me for that. And after that, like I did well, but like it wasn't satisfying anymore. It was I don't know because it wasn't where my heart was at. It was just to get me back to a feeling like myself again and strong. And I think around that time, I don't know if women's bodybuilding came out. I think it was removed at that time from Olympia. But anyway, I was like sort of in this like I need to get my strength back and all that. And after that, I just stopped and focused back on bodybuilding. Yeah, I had a little bit hiatus because after COVID, my dad passed, and then I lost a lot of weight. Because when you're going through things, the last thing on my mind is eating. So I lost a lot. I had a photo on my profile. I think I removed it because people were like, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And nobody knows what I'm going through in my life because I don't put that on there. Like my dad passed, going through a lot of stuff, and then after that, to get me like back again, where I'm like, I need to start eating to force myself to eat. I started bodybuilding again because when I'm bodybuilding, I eat. I get hungry. When I'm not bodybuilding, I'm not hungry.
Yeah, I mean, I found that out when I had COVID for 2 weeks. I lost probably, I think, like 13 or 14 pounds just because I was barely eating anything. I was eating like potatoes and like drinking Gatorade. Basically, that was about it. So then when I weighed the scale, I was like, oh my God, I lost like 13 pounds. Now, again, it took me probably like 3 or 4 weeks to gain it all back. But like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we had the same diet during COVID because I was just like drinking Gatorade, drinking stuff, and then I would eat like maybe potatoes or ramen noodles every now and then. And it was like once a day.
Well, I was lucky. So this was what, like 2 or 3 years ago. So I was lucky that this was right before I'd moved out of my parents' house. So this is like my last welcome to them. Where then, since my dad had COVID too, we would just stay in my mom's room, for my mom and dad's room. But then she would sleep in one of my other brothers who was not home. She would sleep in their bed. Well, then I slept in my parents' bed with my dad. But yeah, I think we had chocolate pudding, and then like those self-heated potatoes like that. It's like a powder, and then you put water in it, and then you heat it up, and then it becomes
Oh yeah.
potatoes. Yeah, like I forgot what it's called, but I lived off of that pudding and like blue Gatorade, and that was it for probably like 2 weeks. So honestly, it wasn't too bad, if I'm going to be completely honest. I was one of those where when I got COVID, it was bad for one day, and then it was nothing for the rest of it. The only thing was that like I couldn't hold a conversation for more than like 15 seconds without coughing. That's about it. But other than that, yeah.
I don't. I didn't get it. My daughter and my little one and I didn't get it, but yeah, everyone in our household got it. I don't know how we didn't get it because we were living in the same house, but yeah,
Well, it's
we
just
didn't
like,
get it.
yeah, it's just like my older brother and my mom didn't get it, but then my dad and me got it, and then my
Yeah,
uncle got it. So it's just, I think they did something that said that like there's a certain type of person or something in your genes that like you just don't get it. Which, hey, more power to those people. But like so you're getting ready for a show now in December. How long are you gonna take just to recoup a little bit before you get right back into it, or are you just even right now getting like, I know you said you had 3 days to kind of relax, but is there going to be any more time, or are you just going to get right back into it then?
well, the 3 days passed because the show was on Saturday, so that was like,
Oh,
was it
okay.
Saturday? It was on the 5th. So I just know Sunday, Monday, and he said I could get back on it Tuesday. Not get back on like training, but the meal plan he sent me, which was we brought carbs back in, and so I did that. And that little grace period I had, I didn't really go insane or anything. I took my daughter out to sushi, and I had some sushi, and then another day, I think I what did I eat? I think I had like Mediterranean food, which is not that bad. It's like just like basmati rice and hummus and stuff. But other than that, I didn't go insane or anything, and I was back on the meal plan. But in regards to training, he told me to take the whole week off. He said, if you're gonna go in the gym, just do cardio, just do like 30 minutes. So I just went. I felt like I was doing nothing. Like I just showed up like Like I'm just like there because I'm usually there for like training.
First of all, the reactions of people seeing someone as jacked as you just go in and do cardio and then leave has got to be absolutely hilarious. Where they're like, "Wait,
Yeah,
she didn't even lift weights. What's going on here?"
yeah. I think the gym people are kind of like, 'cause especially the front desk people, like you just came and did like cardio, like that's it. Yeah. But no, like yeah, so I just did that and like, he was explaining to me the reason was like, we need to we were low carbing and we didn't manipulate water like, some people do, like cut like days out or anything, but I did get very dehydrated. And not like to the point like alarming, but like my lips were like all chapped and I was getting like achy and stuff. And but like so he wanted my body to recuperate and not push anything because to avoid any injuries. And so I'm actually starting my training next week. So I've just been doing pedaling here and there, 30 minutes, not
Well,
feeling like I'm anything.
oh well, hey, it's that's a good thing to have. And has your freakish strength ever came? Has it ever benefited you in ways outside of the gym?
Oh yeah. Well, I guess it benefits my family because I'm the go-to. Oh, can you lift this? Can you do this? Like, can you pick up this washer? Can you like go do this? Yeah. Can you put the
That's the burden
different?
that you have to have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say that's
Yeah. Well, that's about it. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's not really going to be any other reason other than like you're the moving company basically, and or like you said, when you're
yeah,
moving your generator to your son. I mean, yeah, of course, mom's got it now, so
yeah.
there's that.
I'm just the go-to person for things. Like my uncle will be like, "Hey, can you lift this for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay,
Well, with my
all right."
height, it's always, hey, can you reach this? That's the similar thing that I have. Then it's always, hey, let's reach this. So then there have been times where I've been in the grocery store and some old lady's been like, "Excuse me, young man, can you reach that for me?" And I'm like, what am I gonna say no to you? Honestly, like, why are you even
Yeah,
like? Don't even like. What kind of a dick would I be if I'm like, no, nah, I'm good. Just no. It's like, of course I will, but I always, I always find that
yeah.
funny. But
Talking about experiences in grocery stores.
oh god, yeah, especially as you're getting closer to a show.
Okay, no, it had nothing to do with
Okay.
bodybuilding. I had the weirdest request, and I said okay because it was a nice old lady. I'm not gonna say no. She asked me. She asked me to smell the chickens for like chicken meat, and try to like give her the freshest one. So I'm like there in the aisles, like, like smelling all the chicken. That was, and this is prep, and it's raw chicken. So I'm like, smelling all this. Because she's like, I lost my sense of smell years ago. Can you smell all of this? So we're there, and I'm just smelling everything, and people are like, "What's going on here?" Yeah, yeah. That was my weird experience. That was about 3 weeks ago.
That needs to be a question that I use where I was like, Kelly told me that someone requested something of her kind of weird at a grocery store. That would be the 10,000th guess. So you would win. If anyone's trying to use that, just be like, use that as a questionnaire that you're going to stump the guess. So, like, a female bodybuilder was asked you something really weird at a grocery store. What was it? No one's ever going to guess smelling chickens. So,
Yeah.
that's the stump answer that you got to have for everyone if you ever, want to stump them. But lastly, I mean, I want to talk about coaching for a little bit because, like you said, you mix things up with coaches. And what, in your opinion, makes a coach a good coach? Because it differs from person to person. I mean, other people like other things out of a coach, but in your specific, and what works best with you, what to you makes a coach a good coach?
Um, yeah, I've had bad experiences with some coach, and I've had some great experiences. Like one of my friends were at the show. He was my first coach for bodybuilding, and I've known him for about 15 years, 13, 15 years, and he's still like a close friend that I talk to every day. He's a great coach, cares about his athletes, doesn't just see them as athletes or just another number or a way to get popular on social media. He actually cares about them. I feel that that is something a good coach has, like they actually care about their athletes, see them as people, that they have lives, that they have all these obstacles, but not coddling them or babying them, but working with them and finding a program that fits their lifestyle. And also there's also a psychology aspect to getting connecting with your clients and getting them through these hurdles and talking to them. I feel that a great coach learns how to connect with their client, because not every client is going to be the same. As you said, there are some people who are just machines, just keep going and going and going, where there are other people like, we're going to do the work, but we doubt ourselves at times. That's not just that's a lot of competitors. We always doubt ourselves, like if we're hard enough, if we're dry enough, if we're big enough. And that having that set of eyes to tell you like, you know what, you're not as lean as you could be, but everybody has their weaknesses, and you have to find a way to improve them, and then highlight your strengths. And that's you come up with a game plan. It's like in powerlifting. If you don't get your first lift, you have to come up with a game plan with your second lift, a
Yeah,
strategy. And I think that is what makes a good coach.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'd love to have you on again in a year. We're not going to wait another 2 years. And a year from now, where'd you like to be at in your bodybuilding, other than winning your pro card? But is there any other goals, or just in your overall life too as well? Where'd you like to be at a year from today?
All right. I'm gonna speak on bodybuilding first. My goal is to get my pro card in December, and I would like to do the Rising Phoenix next year. That would be awesome. And to step on the Olympia stage within the next 2 years, to step on the stage. And I've had that in my mind. As I said, I'm not. I don't have low expectations, but my thing is like I want to get there and just like I belong like on the stage with all these other amazing women. That's my goal. And in my personal life, I am planning on moving. I was planning on moving north, like around Port St. Lucie, but now I'm like, oh no, the hurricane's been kind of like going over there, so I don't know. But yeah, I plan on moving, and I would like to, be out of school at that time. I'm still in school right now. It's like I completed a degree, and then I'm like, I'm not satisfied with this. So I'm actually a psychology student and also a biology major, so too. So that's what my goal is, to finally finish. I've had to put things on hold because once you get in prep, like I'm like I can't even remember what I read. I'm like I read two sentences and I'm like repeating it
I
over
do
and over.
say I want to see a bodybuilder on prep week or on peak week take their SATs. I just want to see how they would do on that. Like I just for laughs, just to see how bad they would do. I want them to
Right.
take it. I want them to take it before they're on prep, and then I want them to take it a week out. Just as I think that would be a funny video to do, everyone. So I have ideas, everyone.
I, that'll be like okay. I'm like why are you tempting? Because I said I have a book that I've had for a long time, and every time I read it, I'm usually dieting or trying to start prep. I have not finished it. I've had it for like 3 years, 3.5 years or so. I will only read a couple of pages, and then I have to reread those couple of pages a couple of times because I forgot what I read, and I pick it up again. I'm like, damn, I have to read this whole chapter again. Yeah, but yeah, no, that's my goal, like education wise and bodybuilding, and I would like to, um, like get into. I don't know why, but I really want to become a baker. I don't know that too. I'm like, I don't know where this is going to fit in my life because I don't really eat like that. So I'm trying to figure out if that even makes sense. But that has been on my mind heavily.
What is the one thing that you wish you would bake very well that like you don't currently bake well? Like what is one thing that you're like, oh, if only I made this like really good?
That I don't bake well. Okay, so I don't know. I'm really good at baking. I'm bad at cooking on the stove. I'm bad at frying because I don't do that. I can't fry for like to save my life. I will burn it or it'll be raw, one or the other. I'm bad at that. So I would, if I, let's say go into cooking, because like sometimes programs don't just have baking, and that would probably be my like thing that I would need to conquer, like cooking actual food, like for normal people, fried food and stuff.
I will say, I mean, I make a mean PB&J, I make a mean eggs, and I make a mean mac and cheese, but that's about my limits right there. That's where I start to, fall off a little bit like that. But that's, just personally
But
me.
those are classics, though. I've seen
Of
on
course.
Instagram like people are spending lots for like these peanut butter and jellies that are on like brioche bread, and they're like deep fried in something, and it's like $30. I'm like, Jesus, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I never get those type of, or like mac and cheese where like it's got to be gourmet mac and cheese. It's like whatever floats your boat, people. But hey, I'm not spending that
yeah.
money. But again,
No, I'm not all for gourmet stuff. I like things that feel homey,
mhm.
comforting. I like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So when you do struggle with your sugar and your protein, what is one food that you wish you could eat that you currently struggle with now, but one food that you wish you could eat without struggling at all?
Okay, so that would be. I love baklava. I wish I could eat that in like every day. I would have that every day, post workout. And also, protein wise, I really don't crave red meat. So I would have to say I really enjoy. Hmm, it's a tough one. I do love octopus and stuff. That I haven't been able to fit that in my diet. Maybe we can, but no, that
I've never tried octopus, and it seems like it would be something that I maybe that's a bucket list thing for me, but yeah, I have never tried octopus before.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, no. If you do, go to like a Mediterranean restaurant.
yeah.
They really do well, and then they cook it with like balsamic. It's really delicious.
I just with my thing, like even that or like sushi, like uncooked foods or something that I don't really tend to enjoy. Where it's just like
Yeah.
you got to cook it, guys. Like let's be honest. Like if I had the one time I had sushi, I mean I was thrown up in my mouth, almost the whole time trying to gulp it down. I only did it on a dare because a friend said that they would give me $50 if I did it, and I did it, everyone. But I still like for the next day, they're like, "Oh, if you like chicken, you're gonna like sushi," and I was like, "No," they're like, "It's the chicken of the sea," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then after I took one bite, I was like, me liking chicken has nothing to do with this, basically.
Okay.
So, anyone out there, if they ever have a friend that is like trying to trick you with that line, just know that sushi tastes nothing like chicken. And if you like chicken, it does not, in no way, shape, or form, guarantee that you're going to like sushi.
All right. So I do enjoy sushi, but I'm particular what kind. I'll do like octopus, squid, or I will do cooked salmon, baked salmon. They have a baked salmon thing, or imitation crab. I don't do tuna or raw salmon or anything because like I had this experience where I was gonna prep salmon to cook on my prep, and um, there are worms in it, and I freaked out after that. I was like, yeah, no. So every time I see uncooked salmon, I was like, I'm not eating that. Yeah, so yeah, that's the
So,
only thing sushi wise.
so I couldn't think of a better way to end this podcast, but then by telling you my grossest food story that I had, and this was three years ago, I think it was. So we have a place called. Hang on, I'm trying to think about what it's even called. Oh, it's called Culver's. People in
Oh,
Wisconsin are gonna.
okay. Those are popular here now.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't even know where they were. In it was only like Wisconsin thing for a longest time, and then they finally opened up in Minnesota. So I enjoyed them, and I was coming home from work, and it was like once a week. It would usually like be on Fridays on my way home from work. I'd get a burger, and I'd get those cheese tots that they have or whatever they're called, and then I would get a large chocolate chip Blizzard as my drink. And I had about half the Blizzard, and the next day when I was driving in my car, I was like, "Oh, hey, my Blizzard still seems like it's, okay. I might like have a sip of it." And then when I lifted it up and put it to my mouth and was about to put my mouth on the straw, there was a frozen rat looking back at me from
What?
inside. It wasn't in the shake when I got it there. It snuck into my car because apparently it had been living because like
Okay.
I found rat turds all over my car like the next day that I was looking for. But so the thing went into the Blizzard. It got stuck in it because it couldn't come up because the blizzard was so hard basically that like you couldn't really swim out of it. So then it froze to death inside the
Oh my
blizzard, and its eyes were pure white because its eyes were frozen solid. So it just its head was poking out, looking
yeah.
at me, and just frozen solid.
Ew.
I haven't been to Culver's since then, and again, it's nothing against Culver's; they didn't do anything wrong. But it's just
That's the
anytime I drive
experience.
past it, just that sight of a dead mouse looking back up at you, just ugh.
Yeah.
No better
No,
way to end the podcast than that, everyone. I wanted to end you with that, little
gross. Yeah.
visual. So everyone have a great day. No, I'm just kidding. But again, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on again and sharing with us. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to you winning your pro card. I'm not going to jinx it by guaranteeing it, but I believe it will happen. But again, everyone go and give Kelly a follow. Now, again, like she said, she doesn't update as much as a lot of other people, which I, again, believe that's a good thing. When I come to looking at guests, I found that the ones that are a little bit less updating and they seem to be more focused on the sport tend to be better guests too, and they have more of a conversation in it than the people that like you talk to them for 5 minutes and you're like, oh, if this person would get famous any other way, they would not be doing bodybuilding. But so I can tell that Kelly's not one of those, so everyone go and give her a follow. And again, thank you so much for coming back on. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.